to take a look at adding and subtracting vectors by drawing them. Okay, so when we add vectors together, we always join them nose to tail. Okay, so the nose of one vector becomes the tail of the next vector. Okay, so what we have here is we have the vector x and vector y. When I add two or more vectors together, the overall journey is called the resultant vector. Okay, so if I was to travel a journey of vector x and then a journey of vector y, that's a long way of doing a journey from the very start to the very finish. And it's very, very easy to add vectors together. Like I say, we just draw them nose to tail. So we have vector x here, which has components 4, 1. So if I was to start here and move to here, that would be the vector 4, 1. Vector y has got components 2 and negative 2. So all I do is just add vector y onto that. And therefore, when we do that, we then have to draw in our addition, which is the resultant vector, which goes from here to here. And this is the vector x plus y. So treat it like as if you are going from home to meet your friend, and then you end up going to school. But then if your friend's off sick, you wouldn't go to his house to get him to go to school, you would just head straight to school yourself. Okay? So that's us drawing the vectors this is adding the vectors by drawing them. If I was to look at the vectors in terms of their components, I can say that vector x is the vector 4, 1. Vector y is the vector 2, negative 2. So if I was to work out vector x plus y, that's just the same as me doing vector x, which is 4, 1, plus vector y, which is 2, negative 2, which will give me 4 plus 2 is 6, and 1 plus negative 2 is negative 1. So it means that vector x should be the vector 6, negative 1, and we can check that. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then going down 1. So x plus y is indeed the vector 6, negative 1. So there's two ways you can either do this. You can either join the vectors nose to tail and then draw the resultant vector, or you could work out the addition of the vector and then just draw that one vector line itself. Let's take a look at subtracting vectors now. So when we subtract vectors, we go through the same process as adding, but we go along the second vector in the negative direction. So when you have a vector y, in this case, if I want to find the vector negative y, I think of it as being x plus negative y. So if you travel a certain direction for vector y, you travel completely the opposite direction for vector negative y. So if I want to draw x minus y, we'll start by drawing vector x first of all. So I start here. So I go along 4 and up 1, which is vector x, and I'll draw that in. So this here is vector x. Vector negative y is the opposite direction to vector y. So in the last example, I drew vector y going like this. Vector negative y goes in the opposite direction, so it would just go up to here. And that is vector negative y. So the resultant vector is going to be this journey here. And that is the vector x minus y. Okay? Let's look at the components then. So if I was to do the components, vector x is the vector 4, 1. Vector y is the vector 2, minus 2. But this time I'm subtracting my vectors. So when I add or subtract vectors, I add subtract the x's, I add subtract the y's. So 4 take away 2 is 2. 1 take away minus 2 is going to give me 3. So it'll be the vector 2, 3. And that's what we have with this component here. We're going 2 along the way, and then we're going 3 up the way. So that'll be the vector 2, 3. So either you can draw the vectors, or you can do the subtraction and then just draw this resultant vector here. Either way is absolutely fine, and you would still get the same marks.